Today's video, we're going to talk about why Google Ads scripts are problematic and why you shouldn't basically be using them. Okay, not to say Google ad scripts that you use to automate stuff with your Google Ads account can't do what the script says and is advertised to do that you find online. The point here, the most important point is, will it help you actually make more money, given that Google Ads is its own beast, if you will, has its own way of running, and any change you make with your Google Ads account can affect your performance. Any change. You can make one change to your budget and your results can suffer. So you really have to know what you're doing when it comes to making changes to your Google Ads account, which is why most people anymore are starting to use more and more ad agencies, or PPC specialist agencies, I should clarify, to manage their ads, because just going in and just randomly trying stuff in your account, not knowing how it's going to affect the algorithm that runs the ads, is too stressful for people nowadays. And when you're scaling up your company and you're relying on those sales to cover all your overhead, you can't be messing around with the ads and have your sales go down as a result of that. You can't weather those changes. So you rely on somebody who already knows what that change is going to do before they make the change. That's the smart way to do it once you're at a certain minimum level. It doesn't make sense to manage your ads anymore because of that. The scripts try to, they're there to save people time. More so agencies and, people that are in the PPC management world working for clients use them. But some, individual companies are trying to use them as well, but they're like having a stick of dynamite. You could use it for good or it could blow up, cause a lot of damage. So without having all the background as to what you're changing, what it'll do, generally speaking, it's not going to help you positively. Even if you do know what it will do, it'll obviously cause volatility in your account and you still also won't want to do it, as I'm going to drill into on this particular video here today. And then I'm going to talk about the most common scripts that people are using and why you basically don't want to use them for your account. Okay, so I'll get into all that and more on this video, and then also explain, if you said it in the video, how you actually can use it to make some extra money and how much you can make with some actual case study information I'm going to share. So for that matter, scripts are a problem as Google has their own plan for your account. They have their algorithm now that runs all the ads. Running an ad with let's say you want to show up for a certain keyword, you tell Google, hey, I want to show up for red shoes, when people are searching for red shoes. If you bid on the keyword red shoes, you could pretty much that's as simple as it was back in 2005 when I started. Nowadays, it's, should you show up for men versus women typing in red shoes? Or should you show up for this person who has searched for other red shoes in the past, or should I not? That is, the algorithm is deciding this all in real time. Oh, and then on top of that, more importantly, should I show this guy's ad or this guy's or this guy's or this guy's? Given that there's 10 or 20 companies trying to jockey for those top 4 ads positions on Google, and they get to pick and choose who gets to show up for that person, who may just be, as they know, the person who's likely to do business. They might show your competitor versus show you when they know that person's just a tire kicker person because they don't like you as much. So this algorithm is deciding essentially in real time how much you're going to make, who makes it, who doesn't make it, who makes a ton of money, who doesn't. And so what you're really doing with Google Ads nowadays, and it is the most challenging part of Google Ads, is pleasing the algorithm. We're all working to please an algorithm. We're already in, cyberpunk, 2050, where we're serving an algorithm. Google Ads, we have to serve the algorithm in order to get the millions that we could get out of being in favor with the algorithm and Google as a company. So for that matter, the reason why I say all that is the algorithm has a mind of its own, is trying to ultimately optimize for Google how to maximize revenue for Google. The way that they do that isn't just simply, giving all the action on Google Ads to the person with the most money. That's the way that it used to be. Nowadays, 2/3 of the algorithm is identifying which advertisers are helping their users the most. Because if they do that and they were smart and they realized that if they optimize for user experience, not for their advertisers, that people would get an overall good experience from clicking on ads over time, and they would be more likely to click on ads than the organic results over time as a result of that, particularly as they make the organic results shittier and shittier, which they've absolutely done. This isn't like a conspiracy. Clearly, if you have a half a brain, you can see this in the organic results. It's gotten worse over time, whereas the ads have consistently got better and better. And so naturally, they would just put themselves out of business if they only let the lazy advertiser with the most money advertise. And so they're optimizing for user experience first, as I mentioned. When they're optimizing for user experience, they're also doing so due to how machine learning works, they're doing it using big data sets. They're trying to figure out, using the data that's coming in from all the other advertisers and all the users, which ad should show and when and all that. When you start making changes in your Google Ads account, you're throwing a wrench into the system, okay? Algorithms and machine learning systems do not like change. They don't like unexpected changes. So, which is why your results suffer so much if you make changes in your account, because what the system does, and it's designed to do now, is to say, hey, there's a change. Everything we knew about what we knew, we're going to put that aside and just assume we have to relearn everything about this client, essentially, before we're going to give them the placement we gave them before. Then your results completely crash for a few days, a week, a month, depending on how big a change it was. And they put this second guy in line that they liked just below you and give them your ad placements where you were getting all your sales, and that's where your sales go. It went to the competitor, if you will, right underneath you as a backup. So, I mean, as weird as it sounds, why they would do this, their system's designed to run you until you make too many changes in your account in which they're going to run your competitor, because they know how the competitor runs and they know they aren't making changes in their account, so they can rely on certain things that happening in the future. Whereas with you, they don't know what to expect, so they would prefer to show the other guy. That's how the system's set up now. So you have to be ultra careful about any change you're making, and realistically, you should be making no changes in your account unless you consult with somebody who has made those changes before. So you don't have to go through this negative volatility to get an upside that may or may not actually be there, if you will. And I get it, it's expensive hiring ad experts, especially ones that actually know what they're doing, because 90% of them don't. But at a certain level of what you're doing, it doesn't make any sense to randomly test this stuff yourself anymore. You'll waste tons more money that way than you would just paying the ad expert to tell you what exactly works. And 90% of what they do works versus 30% of what you're doing works, and then your campaigns are constantly in flux because the algorithm keeps sending you back into learning mode over and over again as you make changes to figure out what works. So fooling with Google's systems using scripting that are going to turn off stuff, turn on stuff, anything like that, it's like fooling with nature. You think you're smart enough to trick this algorithm that's super smart into giving you what you want, and you can manipulate it, and it's going to do what you want it to do. Just like you start messing with nature using technology, nature is ultimately always going to win in the end. It's more powerful than what you could comprehend in your own mind as a human. This is a small side story. I mean, I'm from the state of Iowa, raised in basically the middle of a cornfield. And what I saw was, the local government, when, there was an issue with locusts or other similar bugs eating all the corn crops, they introduced other insects to come into the area to deal with, to basically kill those insects. Well, then those insects took over, and there was no natural predators for those insects, and they just swarmed everything. They were on everything, all of our houses. It would land on you. It started biting you, and it was a huge disaster. They also did the same thing with deers. People kept hitting their deers with their cars. What do? They brought mountain lions in to cut the population down, which I don't know why they did that, because they could just allow people to shoot them, give out more hunting licenses. But as soon as that happened, now mountain lions are everywhere. We had one in our yard sitting there one day, just like it was like a house cat. Bottom line, you think you're smart trying to fix these issues through innovative tactics, but the road to hell was paved with good intentions, so to say. And you trying to get great results when there's an algorithm sitting on top trying to get results for their users, and you actually, ultimately, it's trying to work for you as well. It's actually trying to find the people on Google that would actually buy from you and just run your ads solely for them. So you can't, fight it or complain about it. But when you have here, now your layer here of changes going on, it screws with what is going on up here in a similar way, like I talked about with the mountain lions, in Iowa, where I'm from. So, not to say you can't have some automation that you do on your level versus the overall automation that's going on Google's system level. You have to be ultra careful about it, and you got to really know what the hell you're doing, basically, bottom line. If you don't know what you're doing and you aren't really familiar with Google Ads, you're probably going to have a bad time. With that said, changes in your Google Ads account causes volatility, and that volatility is caused by campaigns going back into learning mode. So, and I've harped on before on this channel how every single change you make needs to be well thought through. You're not randomly changing shit if you want to have success with Google Ads. You're thinking it through 3 times, like they say in carpentry. You measure twice, you cut once. You think about what you're doing 3 times before you make any one change, because you got to make a change. You're going to see negative volatility. Then you get the upside. But if it didn't work, now you got negative volatility. You have to switch it back. And you got more negative volatility, switching it back again. This all stuff is, really eats into your profits. Using a script to constantly be throwing different changes in your account, that generally is just a bad idea. So that is why mostly you don't want to be doing and using ad scripts to manage your account, because you're constantly throwing a wrench into the gears of the algorithm that's there already to optimize your ads. You think you're smart saying, I'm going to pause, certain keywords that don't work. Well, Google's own algorithm is doing that. You don't think Google, with their $100 billion freaking dollars a year and all their engineers that they have, didn't think about how to optimize your ads on a keyword level? Come on. And for that matter, they're optimizing it on levels you can't even comprehend, period. Literally, they've got thousands of data points on each user that uses Google stored in a database somewhere. And when they convert, they look at, okay, of these 50,000 unique traits that we track on the US population, these 47 here match up with this individual who bought. And then they're going to compare that with the next guy who buys, and then see the correlation factor between these things, in addition to the user's behavior. What websites have they visited in the past? What have they bought in the past? And they've got access to this data, and they don't have it themselves. They buy it from third parties. You can't optimize or compete with the algorithm in terms of what it's going to actually be able to deduct about what works and what doesn't work in your market. Not to say you can't optimize as a human and help get even better results, because you can. The basic premise of these scripts, of what it's supposed to do, which is like take a broad generalized rule and apply it to your account. This is already thought of years ago by Google at the Googleplex. And as a result of this, you're not doing anything innovative for yourself or in general, And if there was a way to, you don't think Google would look at these scripts and decide to implement them themselves? Now, that said, I will also say, at the same time, Google does have quarterly revenue targets, and they're constantly trying to find ways to sneak waste in your budget so that they can make their quarterly revenue estimates so they can please their shareholders. And at that point in time, a script that will block their attempts to waste your money could be useful. Generally speaking, even then, it's really hard to have a rule that just is universally applied, that would work every time for everything and be in your best interest, given that there's always nuance and rules that will screw up any perfect plan with Google Ads. If that were the case, once I created one good campaign for, let's say, a plumber, I would just literally push a button and deploy it for 50 other plumbers, and we would all make the same money. But the reality is every market's slightly different. Market climate's slightly different. And I can't just use a one-size-fit-all approach like that. It might be 95% the same. That extra 5% matters. And you'll, generally speaking, want to be looking at that 5% and making adjustments, not just using the script to just do everything exactly the same every time, because that extra 5% really, really does matter. So anyway, you can take what I'm saying for what it's worth or ignore it. That's up to you. I will go through some of the more common scripts people are using, and I'll explain what I think about them, how useful they are, and then what's their likelihood to screw with your results and give you negative results at the end of the day using them, so you can decide if you're going to use them for yourself or not. And also just give you some broad perspective on a script that you plan on using, whether or not you actually would want to use it or not. So with that said, getting into it, the number one script I see people using right now is the Rhodes script. It's a script that allows you to see the breakdown of spend with your PMax campaigns on an ad group level. Most people are excited about is by the channel. So display versus shopping versus search, which I'm not sure why that is necessarily, because there isn't too much you can do to raise your spend or lower your spend on a certain channel. Now, naturally, you can run a feed-only campaign setup and get rid of everything besides shopping. But in addition to that, they actually don't tell you, they tell you how much your spend is, but you're, as far as I still know, unless somebody wants to correct me here, you can't even see what your sales by channel is. And that's deliberate because Google, the whole point of PMax is to waste your money. I mean, literally. Yes, they want to make it easier for you to advertise, but they've done that already, practically speaking. They want to make it easy for you to advertise everywhere besides Google search. People don't realize even when they're doing PMax that they're advertising outside of Google search. And so then they could take what works, what is the Google search ads that people want, take the dog crap over here, which is the display ads that they don't want. I should say the other way, cover the crap with the good and then sell it as if it's all good. That's what they've done with PMax ultimately. And so if you don't want to run display ads, you just run standalone search campaigns, standalone feed-only PMax setups for shopping and so forth. You don't worry about doing PMax for running all these other placements and then trying to use the script to figure out what works, because you don't have control over it anyway. Truly, we only run PMax for running shopping placements because it runs shopping placements better than standard shopping campaigns. But that's the only thing we use it for, because even if we wanted to run a search or display or YouTube campaign, you'll have more controls running it with a standalone campaign, if you will. We run tons of these other campaigns, but the fact that you're shoving it all together with no controls, it's just opening you up for Google to bend you over essentially. And they do this. Like if your ad performance is better than average for a while, they're going to shove a bunch of shitty traffic in from display network to bring it down. And that's how they make their quarterly revenue estimates every quarter, with this type of shenanigans. So anyway, well, does the Rhodes script work? Yes, it does. Is what you're going to get from it actually going to provide you something you could do to make your ads better? As far as I know, no, other than to know whether you should be running a only PMax script campaign setup or not, which I never run anything besides feed only, again, because I can do much, much better with standalone campaigns. People do rave about PMax, by the way. They rave about it because the conversion cost is low, and that's because they load you up with shitty conversions, bots, competitor mistake calls, or they're just going to load you up with brand traffic, and that's going to skew the numbers. If you really got down to it and saw what the campaign did, you wouldn't want to run it. At least, unless you actually had proper conversion tracking so that you're measuring sales inside that PMax campaign. So if you're generating leads, you're tracking the leads all the way to a sale or non-sale. Offline, you're piping that information back into the campaign so that you could tell Google, I only want revenue and profit, so that it can't shove you full of crap traffic itself. If you're an e-commerce company, of course, like I said, you'll do better with the standalone search campaign because you can write custom ad copy for each keyword, versus with PMax, it's going to basically make you have generic ads. And so anyway, I won't get too much further into this. The Rhodes script can give you data. I don't know how you use it to make money. Negative keyword script. There's scripts out there that will take, obviously it's frustrating. And going back to what I was saying before, Google does this shenanigans because they want you to waste more money, because they can only charge so much for the good traffic. They've hit a ceiling on this. What do they do to make even more money? They sell placements that people don't want, at least primarily. Of course, they're doing a good job finding ways to better predict where a customer will buy so they can sell those predictions to people. But at the same time, they're trying to sneak crap traffic in to make more money, because nobody wants that traffic, and that's a wide open field for for them to enter. With that said, with Google search, as a part of this, they're going to have you show up for competitor terms, people looking for information, people looking for relevant stuff when you're just trying to find buyers with your search campaign. Okay. And even when you're running exact match keywords, the script will do is anything in the search terms report that's not what you've had explicitly input as keywords you want to show up for, it'll add as a negative keyword automatically. And this actually can be useful if you were in a situation where you know every single keyword you want to show up for, and it would automate having to add negative keywords, given that you generally will never reach the end of the road completely, where you never have to add another negative keyword again. The problem is, though, if you don't you'll never really have all the keywords figured out until a very, very, very long time in the future. And so what you need to do is you need to advertise, and then you need to find the new keywords that you didn't have and add those as additional keywords versus just stepping away and saying anything that's not these keywords, add it as a negative keyword, because you're going to lose the other half of the value from what you're getting or doing, which is find more keywords that work and target those as well. It could potentially be useful if you were you've been running your campaigns for 5 years already, and that you basically, I don't care if we'd ever learn how to run another keyword. And at that time, it could be okay. Otherwise, ultimately, it doesn't really make any sense. Even though the script would add the negative keyword, you could say, wait, we do want to run that, and later on override that change, if you will. But what most people are using the script for is to just not have to do any account management. Don't add any negative keywords. In that point in time, that's not the best way to make money, like I mentioned. Ngram report script. So what this does is similar to the strategy that I talked about on this channel before. The single keyword weed out strategy is what I've phrased it. But what you do is the script, it will generate a report of single word performance from your campaign. So it'll pull all your search term data and let's say it'll show search terms that had the word best in it. It got this level of performance overall between all the search phrases in your search terms report cumulatively. And then it'll do the same thing with the word top. So any search term with the word top in it, it'll say, here's the bottom line performance from all search terms that had the word top in it, and so forth. That said, you don't need a script to do this, okay? You could simply go into your search terms report, run a filter by search term, and then put the word best in there or whatever word you're interested in, and it'll automatically show you the results for that word. You do not need a script for this. So, I mean, and that's kind of like the name of the game here. I mean, the marketing space in general is filled with fraud. It's trying to sell to people who don't know anything about marketing a quick solution which doesn't do anything, and the people are too ignorant to know it doesn't do anything, and you can make money off of dummies as a result. This script ultimately isn't necessary. You can do the same thing for free in your account, but people don't know you can do it, so they're going to pay you for the script. So, I mean, anyways, it is what it is. Weather scripts. Okay, so here's an actual interesting one. There's scripts where you have to pay a third party for this service, and it's not, a one-time buy, but you could run ads in your market for, let's say, when it's raining out, that people are apt to buy coffee at a much higher rate than when it's not raining, which is actually the case, because when it gets cold, people want a hot drink, right? Pretty obvious. So what you could do is you could actually buy a script that will do an outside call to a weather tracking service. And essentially you can have your campaigns double the bid or just run ads in general during times where it's raining to get you the best return on investment. Generally speaking, it's done to double your bids during when it's raining, so you get more of the action. So you can actually lift what you're making from your overall ad budget monthly by being more strategic about what portion of the money gets spent when it's raining versus not raining, if that makes sense. So now this can be useful. However, going back to what I was saying earlier about fooling with the system that Google has designed, it's already very, very intelligent. If you are in there making changes all the time, each change creating negative volatility, and you go to turn up the bids, for 3 hours while it's raining and then shut them off again, upside of doing this, even if it converts better when it rains, it's a wash, or even, is negative, basically probably is a negative, because every change you make screws up your placement, you weren't getting the placement you were getting before. Ultimately, as you advertise over time, and Google's gotten a huge amount of data about who buys and who doesn't buy, that's what gets you results today. And then once you go back into learning mode, whatever they knew about who buys, they pretend like they act like they don't know it anymore. So you're just getting in front of like everybody in general versus just the people who buy. And so even though you just wanted to tell Google to run your ads more aggressively when it rained, ultimately what happens is, yes, you do that, but at the same time, all the other optimizations are gone. That is, they know when somebody has bought in from your competitor in the recent past, that's the time when your ad should really show and to bid 4 times as much for that person. But they don't have that as a part of their determination as to whether your ad shows up anymore. So they lose other learnings to apply this other learning that you've learned about the weather, if that makes sense. And then therefore you get a net negative effect from the whole thing. Now, not to say that there isn't any situations for any niche business where adjusting things for certain times based upon the weather wouldn't be a net positive for you. But in general, it's going to be very tough to find that because of how touchy the algorithm is now. If you freaking breathe on a campaign nowadays, it will get screwed up. And for days, if not weeks, okay? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the thing that I hear people complain about the most. The hardest thing as an ad manager is dealing with and handling the algorithm and how it behaves and how to make sure Google doesn't change up where your placements are through making changes, knowing that you have to make changes just to improve the account over time. So it's a balancing act. You got to make changes to get improvements. The changes are going to screw with your results. So what you're trying to do is make small enough changes that you don't really affect the account too much, and then space them out so that you won't really notice any dip in performance as you layer on more and more changes and adjustments over time. So with all this going on and knowing what I just told you, where you got to make a change, wait to see the change out, then make another change, because if you make both of those changes at once, you'll likely go back into learning mode, or at least where your results will go down way further. You have to be very cognizant about, you have to think through your changes really well before you make them, so you don't constantly screw up your account. You gotta make a change, wait a certain amount of time, then make another change, and then knowing that there's 10 changes you gotta make, okay, I should do this one first, then I'll wait 2 weeks, and then I'll do this one. It's gotta all be well thought out if you're gonna grow the account without screwing up your performance while you're doing it. Bunch of scripts, okay? So this is actually fairly handy, I would say, if you are a company where, typically a larger company, you have a certain budget for PPC and you cannot exceed it no matter what, okay? In that situation, you can use a script that says that once your spend is over a certain amount, that the campaigns will be paused. You can do that and it'll do it well, given that it's not really easy to do that otherwise, unless you have like one campaign and you set it up 30 days, which even then, Google even says in their own literature that your daily budget isn't really your daily budget. That daily budget is supposed to be what you're going to be paying approximately per day over the course of a month. So if you're saying you want to pay $100 a day on your campaign, what we're trying to do is lock in a $3,000 a month ad budget for that campaign in actuality. Why? Because search demand fluctuates too much, and it's too damn hard for them to lock in a certain spend per day, nor do they want to, because the ad performance would go way worse for you if they try to do that. Because once, basically some days your ads will only run half the day, and other days it would run all the day. And what you really want is the ad to run all the day, if you will. And then as it gets to the end of the month, maybe it backs off on your post per click a little bit, and that's going to get you more overall profit from what you're doing. Now, as it comes to, yourself, what you're doing, generally speaking, it goes further than that. I tell our clients that we're not going to be able to drill in a certain amount of budget per month, even though we have a monthly budget. But over the course of a quarter, you're going to be spending that $3,000 a month, and it might be we spent $4,000 one month, $2,000 another. Why? Because the demand just changes too much. And if you start to really be anal about it, and it's got to be $3,000 exactly per month, you start shutting off your ads on the 22nd of the month because it overspent the first 22 days, your performance is going to be shit. Especially when, given you're shutting off physically the ads for 8 days. When you turn the ads back on, it'll take a good week, if not 2 weeks, for the ad performance to come back the way that it was. You now want to do this. If you must, you can use a script to shut it off like that, but it's the last thing you should do. Unless you got a boss that's going to breathe down your neck, you don't spend exactly $3,000, not a penny more. that don't use a script like this in the first place, because Google system's too sensitive. Furthermore, not only do they hate change, they hate even more advertisers that are not serious. If you're coming in acting like you're going to run your business like, oh, I got money this week, I'll advertise this week, and next week I don't have any money, I'm not going to advertise, they're going to look at you like you're a piece of shit compared to the other advertisers. And they ain't going to give you any more of the good traffic. Your ROI is going to go right down the shitter as a result. You got to be able to have your stuff, you got to have your shit together. If you're going to advertise with Google Ads, you got to keep your account funded. If you have to spend less to keep it funded, that's what you do. What you don't do is spend more than what your britches can handle and then have your ads get shut off periodically, or think that you're just going to do that to save money, because Google's going to see it and they're going to see the other guys that want to advertise that aren't doing that dumb shit, and they're going to start to run their ads and care about that. And you're going to get this remnant traffic that they know is the least likely to convert, and your ROI is going to be garbage out there doing this. So there you go. Keyword or audience or product quality scripts. So there's a lot of third-party PPC management softwares that's kind of like the kind of bread and butter of these services, where, you know, people don't want to manage their ads. They think they can use a software to manage them. And, you know, if you got your conversion data feeding in, you can, you know, it'll find a keyword that's, you know, let's say has had 1,000 clicks but no conversions, so it'll pause it automatically for you. You don't need software. You can use a script to do this out yourself, which if you don't know how to use a script, I mean, it's really easy. You just upload this script into your Google Ads account in the script section and you're done. And for that matter, guys are using ChatGPT to even create scripts, by the way, which generally speaking, that's really dicey. You know, you could really script your account bad doing that, but people are doing it. But anyway, I mean, you could use scripts to do that type thing. You could say, if a keyword's had 200 clicks and no conversions, shut it off. That said, going back to the nuance thing, we have at our firm actual humans following rules like this. You know, ultimately, if it's an account that's doing lead generation and keyword has had 200 clicks and no conversions, it's shut off. But the human still has manual ability to override this. That is, it looks like it is a keyword that should convert. We may just override that and give it another couple hundred clicks to find out. Like, because if I'm a dentist and dentist near me had no conversions for the first 200 clicks, I'm going to say that's a fluke. I'm going to give it another 200 clicks. Well, yeah, when you're using a script, there is no nuance to this. It just shuts it off. And of course, once that keyword is shut off, you know, hypothetically speaking, you've lost the revenue for that keyword forever. That might lose you 50 grand in sales a year just because you were too, you know, short-sighted to just manually decide if a keyword should be paused or not. Because, you know, you can have unlucky streaks. I mean, for that matter, if you want to get technical here, I've talked about how all the time, how much the economy affects your results, how much local national events affect your results. So if there's something going on in the news, a war kicked off, you know, there's some disease breaking out, whatever, that'll heavily affect your results. Of course, the weather is going to affect your results as well, short term. If it's colder, people are going to be more likely to buy, sit inside doing stuff more often. Whereas when the weather starts to get warm, your results drop off because people are now outside doing shit. Always have a massive impact on the results. So in addition to any just seasonal changes that you have, given that, you know, in a typical business, there'll be at 1 month of the year that the results are double what they are another month of the year in terms of both sales volume and ROI. So, you know, all these other factors going on, you got a script that doesn't really factor in all of it. I mean, wish you could do that. I'm assuming none of you guys are sophisticated enough to compile all these outside factors into your script, but you know, you could easily just have the perfect storm of political stuff that's going on, the economy, you know, like we had recently, the tariffs. I mean, that sprung up the results, you know, are cut in half overnight because of this. Well, do you really, you know, you decided to show up 10 of your most profitable keywords because you're just getting started, because the tariffs hit, because you just have this one-size-fits-all rule for all your keywords. So anyway, you get what I'm saying? You really have to, I just want you to consider this when deciding if you're going to use actual scripts to manage your account this way. And then, of course, the PMax search term scripts itself. So before I, you know, get further into this, go into my summary here as well.
If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you absolutely should, because all the information I'm giving you on this channel comes from my personal experience managing dozens of accounts. I spend 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at a firm to give you the information I'm giving you, and then I spend my weekends literally sharing it. And nobody else is really doing that. You got full-time YouTubers here that don't manage campaigns telling you what to do. It's really a joke. If you want to really learn what works, you want to subscribe to this channel. So go ahead and do that for yourself. You want to make millions of dollars a year running ads for your business. You also want to check out my blog on my site at guaranteedbtc.com/blog. The blog has step-by-step information on how to actually make money with ads, the way that we're doing it at our firm for clients to literally guarantee the results. And so you want to check that out as well. If you have any questions, by the way, about anything I'm covering here, leave a comment below. I'll get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, typically within 24 hours time. And for that matter, like I said before, as sensitive as Google is, you're better off, even just firing me for a 1 hour or 30-minute consult call, run past me what you're planning on doing before you do it, because you're going to waste tons of money doing something that didn't work due to the volatility alone. You can run that past me, but if you're interested in setting up a private call, you can do that. Reach out to me at guaranteedbtc.com for that. I also have done for your services, of course, as well, of which we're going to guarantee for you a certain minimum limit in your sales or leads before we charge any management fees at all. And no other firm is really doing that I know of still. So we should tell you something about the quality of the services we're providing when we do it for you and it's done for you. I also, by the way, have templates available. If you are in a market we've worked in already, you literally can buy from us the winning ads, landing pages, campaign templates that work for your market. You copy paste those into your ad account and get the same results we got in another city or country market without the time, money, and hassle it takes to figure out what works in that market. I mean, at the very least, you should find out if it worked in your market, what results we got, because you're going to save yourself a lot of time and frustration and money doing that. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We've got hundreds of niche templates. Because we worked in hundreds of niches over the last decade running this firm. So at least find out what you stand to gain from it if we have something. But going back to what I was saying here, now PMax campaigns, they have a script that you can do for PMax that'll take all the search term data out of PMax. Now, naturally, this is available to you by default. Okay, you can go under the insights of your PMax campaign and see search themes, which if you download the search themes report, you can actually get the search terms itself. You don't need a script. But I see people talking about scripts to get the search terms from PMax, even though you can get them there manually. Just like I said about the Ingram script. I mean, there's people are selling scripts that, frankly, you don't need to buy to do what the script says that they can do. But that's another one that I see people using a lot. Now, the idea of looking at the search term data is very, very useful, not only just to add negative keywords, but to take that data and build standalone search campaigns targeting the terms that converted in the past. We use this strategy all the time. One of my favorite strategies to use to scale results like Google ads. But that's another example of a script that I see most commonly used by people in the real world. So anyway, 7 different main text scripts that I covered. Know that you can automate stuff, but Google's already running automation on their end to get you results, particularly when you're using smart bidding, which you should always be using, because that's going to get you better results than manual bidding long-term every time. And when you're feeding in data, rich, high-quality data about who's buying and who's not buying, even if you generate leads, you can still get the sales data into your account, or at least information about the quality of the lead itself, whether it's qualified, whether it's a good quality lead or a bad quality lead. The algorithm's going to do all this optimization for you that you think you need to do with the script. It's already going to do it for you, because it's going to look at, it has access to more data and can do this optimization for you. Given that, though, you still want to look at your account and manually make some adjustments time to time. Given that the system that Google has is going to be apt to give things a really long time to work and a chance to work. You can nip things in the butt sooner. If you need to make things work sooner, you can do that. I still recommend that 100%. But just to use scripts, it's kind of like redundant in the grand scheme of things, given that Google's system isn't the dumb system that it used to be in the past. Have a discussion about this or anything else. I got a brand new group that I started up about a couple months ago now. That's a Discord group. You can find the link in the video description. I'm answering questions in this group. There's also a lot of members of this channel that's also talking there, also answering people's questions. If you have any questions about what you're doing, you can go in there. I got a free PVC course that is available to you in there for free just for joining the group as well. So if you want the best PVC group that you can find online, study and to learn from and to ask questions. And I promise you that's the best one you can find right now. Even though it's not huge yet, it's certainly got to be huge. Beyond that as well, looking for companies to invest in. If you are a company that thinks that they have the best product or service in your market, but not the resources to advertise it adequately, I'm looking to potentially do business with you. I've invested in several companies recently where I'll give the company ad spend, agencies resources to set up and run their ads. In exchange for a cut of the revenue growth moving forward in the company, we'll become equity partners in the company. We'll take between 1 and 10% of the revenue growth from the company as a result. And so if we're doing $1 million a year now, we take them to 10, we want 3% of the extra $9 million a year. That is the overall revenue. We're willing to do a deal like that with you if you got a spectacular product or service where you have best thing in the market or close to it, and just pour advertising, because we know we can make your stuff explode. If that's the situation you're in, and you just want to, I call it smart, but smartly outsource the advertising to somebody who just already knows exactly what works. You're not testing stuff, even though you'll get a smaller piece of the pie doing that. Pie is going to be freaking huge working with those. So with that said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.
If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.